Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the cabin. We are standing in front of some white oak that was delivered a while ago, and actually the guy that split it up works with my brother-in-law, and he brought it up here and he even stayed and helped us unload it. But I contacted him because, you know, like I've said before, all of my hardwoods are really way up on the ridge, and it would take a lot of snaking the logs down with the cable and a block and tackle and my tractor just to get them down to where I could get to them to cut them. Which is a lot of work. Everything that I've got on this hill over here is primarily cedar, poplar, dogwood, holly trees. There's a lot of those, and there are a few oak, but they're not any more bigger than this. I've got some young hickory that are probably like this, but I'm not going to cut those down. I'm going to let those grow because everything I do around here is pretty much select cut. So I have to determine, you know, what I'm going to take and where it's at, and you know, kind of farming the trees basically, because every time I take one down and it opens up the canopy and the sunlight comes through, a bunch of other trees replace it. But it would be a few years before they got bigger. Anyway, I found out that he had this wood, and it's $120 a cord, which is not too bad. But that wood, I know that a lot of you know, but if you're not familiar with oak, it's very dense fiber, and I'll tell you what, this piece right here weighs probably 3 times as much as one of those box elder pieces when it's dried. And I'll tell you what, this right here has a lot of BTU factors to it. So this wood right here will actually burn longer and hotter than what I have been using. So I won't go through nearly as much, because there were actually almost six cord of wood in here, because a cord is basically 2 feet wide, 8 feet or 16 feet long, and 4 feet high. Okay, that's 2 ricks put together. A rick is just half of a cord. But anyway, yeah, it wasn't a bad price at all, and so I figured I would start getting my, if everything looks like this and is dense like this, then I'm gonna, you know, start getting my, I talked to him while I was here, getting my wood for next year from him. Now occasionally there will be a big tree that will fall that over on the ridge there that I might be able to, not too much work, grab a hold of, be able to pull it down with the tractor and saw it up. I know where there's 2 big red oaks, but they're way up, but they're probably this big around, but they're way up on the side of the hill, and I just don't know how I would get them down. But this wood's a lot heavier than what I had, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, this is really good wood. But anyway, guys, you know, you would think that with all the timber that I've got around here that I would have enough to supply myself, but I don't have that much. Like I said, hardwood with good access to it. So, but I do like the type of heat that wood gives you, and I still think that it's cheaper than burning. What was your like power bill there in town?
About 150, 160.
160 per month?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But I think that that's still going to be cheaper on me, and of course I can use that stove to cook on, as well as the heat. It's a nice dry heat. So, yep, I'm pretty proud of that. This right here is what I picked out for the kitchen countertops. I'm trying to save money doing everything on my own, and like, since I don't have access, like I was saying, to some hardwood, I have milled up some 2-inch pine. This is actually from that dead tree that I went down there in the field and got that wood from in one video here a while back. This was another log that I went down and got. Well, it was actually what I built the shelving for the kitchen out of, and did this bottom step in order to change the steps to the front porch when I built it. So this gave me about a 14-inch live edge to go on the outside, and then I've got milled up this one to put up to it to make the full length of the countertop. But yeah, Stephen was telling me that he his house that he and Jennifer built, actually they have 2x6 walls. So instead of having a 4-inch wall like I've got with the R13, they probably used R19 on the wall. So their house is probably insulated, I don't know, maybe a little bit better. Of course, he doesn't have the radiant barrier, and he doesn't have the 1-inch thick lumber on the outside, and the cabin stays pretty warm. But I'm sure that if their house hadn't been made out of the 2x6s, that their power bill would even be more. Anyway, but yeah, this is the material. You know, it would have been better if I'd have had a hardwood or something, but I think what I'm going to do, and correct me if I'm wrong or you've got some better ideas, leave me some comments. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this off real good, take my drawing knife, clean all this up, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the timber oil on this as a base coat, and then I'm going to put polyurethane, a couple of coats on top of that, because anything that I do as far as food preparation will probably be done on like a butcher block, you know, a small one that I will buy for the counter, but primarily just, you know, be setting stuff on. I don't plan on doing any cutting or anything like that on the countertop. I mean, you wouldn't do that on your countertops, right? So I think that these are going to be okay. I think that they will look really good. Also, leave me some comments. You think I ought to lightly burn this like I did everything else, or just kind of leave it natural looking like I did the shelving for the kitchen and just oil over the top. Now the oil does turn it a little bit darker and gives it a little bit of a more of a yellow tint to it, but leave me some comments and let me know what you would do, because I'm not going to be too far away from actually getting those prepped and getting them put on. Going to work on building the countertops and getting those ready. That way I can get a lot of the food that I've got stored in there in boxes and everything, bags and stuff, and get those kind of put away and clear some space out in there. But talking about food, my son-in-law, by the way, this is Stephen. You've seen him in other videos and talk about him, but he comes and he disappears. He's kind of like a ghost, but he'll have to go, and then I'll end the video and say, you know, appreciate him coming by and all that. But Stephen works in the food industry, and primarily wholesale industry, delivering to different companies and things of that nature. Pretty much anything that they need from meat to canned good, right? Mm-hmm. But Stephen was sharing with me, okay, now explain to them that there's going to be a price increase. Is that on, like, say, meat products? Is it on canned goods, dry goods, or what is it?
So all across the board, over last year, you've seen a 12 to 13% inflation cost, and they still project another 10% over the next 3 months. So it's not going to stop, and that is everything you can think of.
10% or 10% more?
10% more over the 12. So you're looking around the 20% inflation rise over 2 years ago.
Okay, and that's primarily because the people that you purchase from, they have raised the price.
That is from the labor issues and the freight issues. Okay,
so I don't know why we have labor issues, because we were talking about that earlier. Everywhere you go, there's a help wanted sign. Okay, I can't quite understand. I seen a. I was telling him. I said I seen a headline from one of the major publishers. Won't mention the name, but the year 2021, we had the highest growth rate in the economy, and since the 80s, and unemployment, you know, was changed. And I thought, well, the only way that the unemployment was changed was because that people were being subsidized and they weren't working. Because everywhere you go, there's a help wanted sign, right?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe that contributed to it happening. But I'll tell you what, folks, that price doesn't come free. And I was telling Stephen that long after I'm gone, his generation, probably the next generation, will be paying for that, because you don't get something for nothing. And it's a sad thing to, you know, things are like I've never seen them before. But anyway, it's sad to know that, you know, they're going to inherit something like that. But anyway, you know, we can't go back and change anything. We can just make things better from, you know, from here going forward, which I hope that we do as a country and as a, you know, the nation and worldwide, that people do what's right. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of freaky to know, because I would imagine that that would also spill over into the grocery stores, where
Yeah, the
private sector.
they've seen a 7 to 10% increase over last year, so it's going everywhere. Nothing's going to stop that.
And that'll probably include fuel and everything else that people, you know, you guys better put your seatbelt on and buckle up, because, you know, the way things have been going the last couple of years, I don't think that, from what he's saying, things are going to change for the better anytime soon. I would just hope that, you know, that they would, and that things would kind of level out. But, you know, like I was saying, things are different, and never seen it like this before. And I don't want to be a gloom and doom type preacher, but or preacher, I should say, saying anything. But you know, in order to be able to do what you can do and be self-reliant is probably the best thing that you can do. So, you know, I don't want to say anything about prepping. I don't consider myself a prepper, and I have watched things like that, because a lot of that's interesting. Ordinary people come up with all different kinds of things, but to some extent, you need to be a prepper today, don't you?
Oh yeah.
You need to find different ways to do things to save money. You need to try to be as self-sufficient as possible, grow your own stuff, get your own stuff, have access where you can barter and trade and do things like that, which I hope in the near future that it doesn't come to that again. But, you know, it could, you know. I mean, that's the way that the country used to operate years and years ago. But anyway, my point is that doing things on your own, growing things on your own, being able to make and repair things on your own, and honestly, if you want to know how to do anything, YouTube is the platform to do that. There are several things that I looked up, especially when I was living in town, when I had internet access, looking at like the solar systems and the water catchment and all those different things. You can find videos on how to do anything. My sister repaired her own dryer one time because she couldn't get it done locally, and she just happened to YouTube, and somebody had the same dryer, and she followed their example. Same thing was wrong, and fixed her own dryer. So ladies, there you go. Oh, I mean, if you're married and you have a husband, you know, he'll probably do that for you if you cook him a nice meal. But anyway, no, you know, being self-reliant, especially today, has a whole lot of advantages. You got any other kind of information like that as far as the food? What about shortages?
Well, shortages are mainly because of the labor and the freight. Not enough truckers to deliver product.
Do you see any shortage on any particular item? And let me just give an example. Let's go back a couple of years, like toilet paper. I mean, who would have ever thought?
Yeah.
But toilet paper. Do you see any kind of shortages on food, canned goods, dry goods, paper goods, anything coming up?
Not shortages on canned goods. It's more that they can't get the aluminum from one warehouse to another to pack it.
Okay.
So that's still freight. Foam is a major shortage because most of your foam comes from overseas. Which,
Okay.
we know there's a backlog in California of boats. So that's a lot of your issues too. Getting the ingredients from one place to another to make the product to get it to you.
Gotcha.
It's freight. So
Gotcha.
with
Okay.
gas prices rising, it's just going to continue.
So there you go. Getting some items that they do use in shipping, freight, or whatever, having trouble getting that, causing the delay in the freight to get to the next place, which causes the shortage to you and I
Chain reaction.
on the end. Okay, so I guess you might as well get ready for some of that. You know, honestly, here's what I do, and probably inside there I've got maybe a half a dozen of each: mustard, ketchup, just different things. I might buy a little extra when I go to the store, and just stocking up. That way, you know, I mentioned on one of the videos about the world losing its mind in the event that it did. At least I might be able to last a little while longer till I can figure out, you know, what the heck am I going to do about this. But anyway, you might want to stock up a little on this and a little on that.
Yeah, something we tell our restaurant owners is don't wait till you need it. Get it beforehand.
Okay.
You wait till you need it, you're probably not going to get it.
So make your own stock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some good information for you that's coming down the pike on the commercial side, but it's going to affect the residential side, which is basically you and I when we go to Walmart or wherever it is that you shop, and to get groceries and different things like that. You might as well expect everything else that you get, I guess, to go up too.
Oh yeah.
Because it's going to affect everything, all different departments. I know that y'all recognize these two big, well, they're not stumps. It was actually the butt end of the tree. I did saw it in half, and I'll tell you what, that was the best, probably the best cut I've ever made, sawing something in two, where I actually went around it and ended it right back up at the same spot. But these are two pieces of maple. Now, I've had one of these on the sawmill, and when you lay it down like this, basically the sawmill won't go around it. So what I think that I'm going to have to do is, if I can, stand it up, because, let's see, well, that's 26 inches that way. It was 27, about 28 inches that way. I might be able to stand it up and get those cut off. What I had thought about doing was, like on this bottom side or on the side of this one right here, cutting this much off if I could and making a flat spot on it, still having the whole live edge around the corner, but that way the end tables would set flat up against the wall. And what I would do is I would take and put a leg, like say this side was on the wall. Smokey, move. I put one leg here, and then one leg out on the front, because I don't think it really needs any more than that. And this right here is the coolest little item. I was watching some guys making beds one time and hand railings, and they actually used one of these. Now, I didn't have this at the time that I was putting those in, but this one right here, the one that I bought, will accept up to, it says, a 3 to 4 inch log. And here's the blades that actually go on it. This is what it looks like. Goes on the end of a 1/2 inch drill. And then these are the set of blades that hook on to the outside right here. So what happens is you start this on the end of the log, and what it does is it starts peeling the log away, and it will end up with, you will have a 1.5 inch tenon, round tenon, okay, on the end, and it goes up this far, okay, and it will be tapered back on the log. So I've got a Forstner bit that's also the same size that I will drill my mortise with in that right here, and then I will make the tenon on the leg that they should go together nice and tight and look nice and pretty when I'm done with it. And I can't remember how much we paid for this thing, 50 bucks, 70 bucks or something like that, but it's heavy duty and it should last. I actually got this from Lumberjack Tools, Schroeder Log Home Supply Incorporated. Can't remember where they were out of, but it says www.loghelp.com. Caulk, chinking, finishes, sealants, restoration, and tools. So this came out of the tools. What state is that? Wisconsin?
Yeah, Wisconsin.
Okay, so Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. I guess that's where they're located. DIY log furniture. Well, I don't have any do-it-yourself stuff out here, do I?
No,
No, I ain't. I'll have to look that up on YouTube. I'm just teasing. But this, you can get different sizes. So if you're interested in something like that, this is a little plug for them, guys. This is how you can get a hold of them. So, like I said, it's lumberjacktools.com. And anything that you need, Schroeder Log Home Supply Company, anything that you want to check out, they should have it. But yeah, I think I'm going to make about 6 of these end tables. That corner table that I've got the still and everything sitting on, I'm going to put 2 of them side by side and try to cut a 45, and that way kind of make a corner bench that'll be kind of like heart shaped. But I'll set the still on that. I'm trying to get rid of all of the commercial furniture that I've got. Everything in here is going to be handmade except the table in there that I got, the big dining room table, the couch that I put in the entertainment room, and probably a lazy boy that I get sitting there by the fireplace. Everything else is going to be handmade. Doing my desk area where I do my editing, live edge. Countertops, live edge. Kitchen counters or kitchen cabinets, homemade. Everything else I've done pretty much be homemade with the exception, like I said, of those. So, but anyway, leave me some ideas. Let me know what you think about cutting that off, putting 3 legs on it. I will probably make these a couple inches, maybe 3 inches thick. Nice, big, heavy, and bulky material. I think it'll look really good. And then should I burn it and stain it? I hear a helicopter. Or should I just kind of leave it natural and put the oil on it? Leave me some comments there. Well, we were standing here talking about this section back here being cleared off and what we're going to do back here and all that, but he's going to have to go and get back. He's got some things to do. He came up here to help me unload that wood because I actually was expecting 2 cord, but he said that he couldn't get the other one done because of working full time and doing that on the side. So I told him no rush, because honestly that hardwood's going to last me much longer than the other wood. But anyway, he's going to have to go. But appreciate you telling us about what's happening on the price front out in the world, and because you know they're constantly having meetings and stuff and being informed of everything that's going on. But anyway, I'm going to see him off, and then I'll meet you guys inside, and we'll see if we can answer some questions. Okay, let's see if we can answer a few questions. I got one guy that writes here, says dogwood is harder, high BTU rating as well. Pretty sure most flowering trees are generally a good hardwood. Dogwood makes a very durable flooring. Of course, the problem is they don't get very big, which that's true. Can make 10 times as much flooring and axe handles from one hickory versus the dogwood. 90% of his woods is bitter nut hickory. He said, I can vouch that hickory is definitely a close runner-up as far as hardness. He heats his house with it, and he said it's obviously more pleasing to the eye over dogwood. I just pretty much knew of people making handles and bows and things like that out of dogwood because of its rigidity. Very pretty finished wood, I agree it is. Also, which happens to be the flooring on most of his main floor. Anyway, he says, love what you're doing. 100% fan of the crooked spindles. Well, you have to be because they're up, and I'm not going to take them down. Let's see. Jennifer is always so happy. My mom had one of those sprinkler bottles for ironing. Got a lot of comments off of that, actually. I can remember my grandmother using one. And you know what, guys? I've decided that in here, I'm not even going to put in a dryer because I was going to get one that was going to be a gas-operated dryer, but honestly, how many dirty clothes could one guy have in a week's time? Not that many, because once I'm dressed for the day, you know, and sometimes like my coveralls in the summer, or overalls, if I'm, you know, cutting wood to try to keep from getting my other clothes dirty, you know, they may get washed once a week, just kind of throw those on the outer. So I'm thinking I'm just going to put up a clothesline, you know. I'm living simple anyway. I can remember that's what my grandmother did. We had a dryer, but she didn't use it that much. She took the clothes outside, hung them out. So, you know, I take out 3 or 4 pairs of pants, 3 or 4 shirts, some socks, undies, hang them outside, bring them in, you know, have them folded in 15 minutes and be done with it. So there's really not much point in me getting a dryer just to, you know, create another bill, either electric, which I plan on going propane, and that cost as well as the appliance itself. It does cost a little bit more to get a gas operated appliance. So my point is, that's what I'm thinking, and I think that, you know, that's going to suit my needs just well. So I'll with that said, you know, I may have to iron a little. Who knows? I may start using a spritz bottle. This guy says, Outpost review hosted by Jennifer. I think most of the show was Jennifer this time. Love the snowball fight. Love to see the solar setup when you get ready to do it. I've seen others on YouTube and TV programs. The mountains where you live are similar to where I live. I love the content of your programming, and it's good when your kids can be on there with you. Keep up the good work. Yeah, that's something that I've already talked to my son that I'm going to start. Probably the next project is working on trying to get some solar in here. Of course, you know, I'll be doing the building projects, but as far as, you know, an upgrade, a big upgrade that's going to actually help the homestead would be a solar system. So you can look for that in, you know, spring, summer area. That I'm going to start working on that. Great video again. Grandma used the clothes sprinkler. Was a blast in the past. So got a lot of comments, a lot of people watching this channel, you know, had parents that use those. Then this one says, wow, my grandmother used to do that. When she ironed my grandfather's shirts, she starched them. I was very little, but now I remember. Jennifer's full of energy. Yeah, my grandmother, she would use some of that to iron them out. And then if it was my grandfather, he was in the insurance business, she would put a little starch around the collar when she did that. And made his collar stand out, you know, nice, and made it look really good. The bottle is for ironing clothes, and my mother had one. There you go, another one. This other person writes, it's an empty Pepsi soda bottle from a while back in time. I have a case of 6 bottles of Coke right now, never opened and saved. Well, that's true. It was an empty Pepsi bottle, but the thing on the end of it made it particular to people who iron clothes. This other person says that my grandmother used a Coke Pepsi bottle with a little spout called a sprinkler. Our washed clothes dried on the clothesline. There you go. Were brought into the house, sprinkled, and then rolled up for a short period and then ironed. I always thought the sprinkling process softened up the clothes to make them easier to iron. It's not an easy process. Thanks for the memory and your corny jokes, Jennifer. She's not here to tell you all any jokes today. Then this other person writes, kids today have lost respect to the point you never hear them say Miss or Mrs. or Mr. To adults that they know or greet. They use first names only, which was not permitted when they grew up. And a lot of that, you know, is true. And I think the last video I talked about different languages even have within that language another language or with a word that you might say, but you say it differently when you're speaking to someone who is a peer or someone who is older than you, because it's considered disrespectful not to use that kind of language. You don't just sit and chit-chat like we do in the English language if they're older. You have to show them more respect. Says, Richard, my friends and I did the same thing building forts. He's talking about the snowballs, and had snowball fights. Today on Amazon, there's a toy that helps make perfect snowballs fast. Wish we had them back in the 60s and 70s. We were pretty good and pretty fast if it was a wet snow at making snowballs. We didn't run out of too much ammunition, but we always tried to make it beforehand and have a pile of it. That way all we had to do was just chunk it out there. Guys, we certainly do appreciate you hanging out with us up here, listening to what we have to say, and hopefully something that we can share with you might be relevant to you and help you guys out. But we want to wish everyone a great day and the rest of the week, and hope that you guys stay well, stay fit, take care, and we look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.